Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking an hour out of your busy day to join us on this webinar where we're going to be talking about making tax digital for income tax. Sorry, how could I forget the key add-on? And we're going to be discussing a potential solution for making tax digital for income tax. Gosh, it's a mouthful. I'll start using the abbreviated terminology soon. We're going to be discussing a solution potentially for you accountants to try and tackle it. And we've got Robert from Initor who's going to kind of walk us through this journey. For those of you who don't know, my name's Nicholas Janey. I'm a director at Capium and have been working there for the past 8 years. And remember well or painfully the initial MTD for that implementation. And I just kind of want to draw strength from that experience to say how all of us have kind of accommodated that in our workflows already. So even though there may be some initial hiccups with making tax digital for income tax, I'm sure we'll all be able to take it in our stride. Before I get started on this webinar is being recorded, okay? So if you have to pop out or if you need to come back or whatnot, don't worry. We'll be sharing the webinar recording and we will be sharing the slides as well. We would love for people to start interacting with us. We will be interrupting the webinar to have pauses, to ask questions or share observations, and also to ask polls as well. So the more engagement, the better. There's no such thing as a silly question, because I'm assuming if you're thinking it, others may be thinking it too. All right. So I'm delighted to hand over now to Robert from Initor. Good morning, Robert. You okay?
Yeah, good. Thank you for the introduction, Nick. Much appreciated as ever. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. As Nick introduced me, I'm Robert Grant. I'm Head of Customer Experience at Initor Global. I've been working with Initor for about 3 years now. We have around 100 UK accounting practices as customers, and we provide various outsourcing services to them, everything from bookkeeping right through to filing, self-assessment, tax returns. I am an accountant by profession. I worked in practice for over 30 years, and I did use outsourcing heavily. So I think I can bring quite a different perspective to how we should be using outsource going forwards, especially in this new MTD IT environment. Over the next 45 minutes or so, we hope to provide practical suggestions and actions accountants can take to implement MTD for IT effectively, and that's by using outsourcing as a potential solution. We will be delighted to take any questions and observations throughout our presentation, so please use the chat box, and Nick will harness any comments there, and we'll stop at appropriate times throughout the webinar and try and address any questions that you may have. I can also say it's great to have Nick on the webinar because he can handle any questions around the latest thinking and latest solutions being offered by the commercial software providers who are working really hard behind the scenes with HMRC to come up with solutions that provides a compatible sort of filing solution for accountants. But I would also like to start this webinar by providing some context. Now, my reading of MTD IT is that it is a major challenge, not just for businesses and individuals, but also for accountants. Many businesses will be preparing digital records for the first time. Some will be completely unfamiliar with software or even spreadsheets, and will be seeking support and guidance from their accountants to help them comply with the new regime. For accountants themselves, the affected businesses are customers who have needed only minimal contact and support over the years, maybe even just once a year, you know, that typical meeting with a sole trader who brings all his receipts and invoices to your office in January and says, yeah, I'm ready to prepare my self-assessment tax return. There are still lots of businesses who have that sort of mindset. And of course, to support that, accountants will need to review their services, the way they're provided. They'll need to review their pricing, and come up with different solutions, and also look at different software solutions based on what's out there in the market. Now, that's probably long overdue for some of these clients who need to ensure that they've got their digital record keeping on the straight and narrow, and they will need to make sure that they're comfortable with their new responsibilities. We've had lots of feedback from our customers that shows especially the smaller accountancy practices are struggling to plan capacity, set appropriate fees, and manage the software changes that are needed to help their clients comply with their new MTD IT responsibilities. So throughout the presentation, I'll come back to what some of those solutions may look like. And of course, as I mentioned at the outset, some of these clients are really hard to engage. They're wedded to traditional record keeping, and indeed feedback from accountants involved in the closed beta work with HMRC shows that some clients are simply not interested in maintaining digital records at all and cannot see any upside from the new MTD arrangements. Another lesson from the closed beta work is that accountants feel there's going to have to be strong investment in people, a review of roles and responsibilities to support that. There's going to need to be new systems in place to manage workflows, and of course processes are essential for successful implementation around automation, how you communicate with clients and give them sort of reminders to make sure that they're up to date with their digital record keeping. But that said, there are many benefits and upsides to this new regime. There are opportunities for accountants to lead the way. And to do that, accountants can help clients understand their tax liabilities in real time. They can help their clients embed more effective financial planning and ensure there are no surprises at the end of a tax year. So taking all that together, it is a real opportunity to help clients add value with timely, tax-efficient advice.
And just to add, Robert, as well, one thing, when I've been speaking to accountants about the opportunity, is the chance to move clients onto a monthly direct debit.
Yeah.
So instead of having a one-off fee for just a single tax return, you can now get monthly income for those clients, because you're providing more work, more value, and then you as the accountant should get that in return. So I'm definitely with you about more optimistic than pessimistic.
I think that's absolutely right, because the more touch points you have with clients, the easier it is to justify a sort of subscription-based model to support the MTD regime. So what we're covering today in a little bit more detail, there'll be a very brief overview about MTD for IT. I'm sure accountants attending this webinar will understand completely what the new responsibilities are for clients. What I'm going to spend a lot of time doing is talking about action accountants can take to flourish in this new MTD IT world. I'm also going to set out some priorities I think new tax professionals, accountants should be taken into consideration, and also something you can take away for clients around what they should be prioritising over the coming months. I'll also talk about how you can deliver more effective personal tax services widely and reduce costs through outsourcing. Of course, HMRC estimates there's around 2 million businesses and individuals are going to be affected by the new MTD for IT responsibilities, but that still leaves around 8 or 9 million taxpayers who are still going to need self-assessment tax return work and personal tax services as well. So actually we're looking at a more wider solution to some of the problems that you may be perceiving from these new requirements. We've been spending a lot of time talking to our customers about what works best for them around their outsourcing solution for MTD. And we've sort of put our efforts into coming up with a fixed price outsourcing model. So I'll take you through that as well. And when we send you an email after this webinar, we'll send you a rate card as well and some service descriptions that might help you understand in a bit more detail what we're trying to do with our customers. And then I'll also take you through some advantages of outsourcing, not just MTD IT work, but other work as well for your practice. So a very brief one-slide overview on the new MTD IT requirements. So looking at HMRC plans from April 2026 through to April 2028, we know that affected businesses must maintain digital records using software that works from MTD IT. Now, there's a lot of commercial software coming onto market just now, And it may be quite difficult to actually disseminate what's going to work best for your clients and what may work best for your practice. But we know that HMRC are not going to come up with their own solution. It's going to be up to the market to provide that holistic journey for individuals and clients. We know that affected businesses need to submit a quarterly summary of income and expenses to HMRC using compatible software. And this is really where the accountant comes into play on a more regular basis, touching base with their clients. This is going to have to happen every quarter. There's going to have to be some input from accountants to reality check the information that's been prepared over the last 3 months and really minimise the number of errors and omissions that occur when a client tries to submit this information to HMRC. We know that the date for finalising a tax position remains fixed at 31st January after the end of the tax year, and this is when the final declaration or return is submitted to HMRC. And that will include, of course, all other sources of income, including sort of capital gains, PAYE, income from dividends and so on, and also the MTD qualifying income. So that's a real strong touch point for accountants to really run through the sort of an overview of a client's tax affairs that's been building up throughout the year to this final source of truth. We know that the threshold from April 2026 is set at £50,000 of turnover or income, and that reduces over the next 2 years to £20,000 by April 2028. So I think we're going to find ourselves in a couple of years' time with basically all of our sole trader and landlord clients being by necessity, they will need to comply with this new MTD regime. So the more lessons we can learn at this stage, the better place we will be to actually make sure that we make the best of these new requirements. I think that's a good place to stop now and talk about our first poll. Now, I'd like to understand from the audience, what is the MTD priority for your practice? Is it software and technology that you may have to introduce for the first time for certain clients? Is it actually managing those clients that are coming into a new regime for the first time? Is it pricing those services? Is that what you think the biggest priority is for you? Or is it the capacity to manage these clients going forwards? So if you want to take a moment to think about what the priority is, give us your feedback. And if there are any questions, Nick, I'm happy to try and take those at this moment in time.
Brilliant. Brilliant, Robert. Please feel free to add some questions in on what's been shared so far. I think I just want to share some inside information that I've accumulated over the past couple of weeks. I think that there's going to be around about 1 million individuals mandated in the first period for MTD IT. So I'll be surprised if you don't have at least a handful of clients who will be in that first mandation period. HMRC have recently, have said that the first quarter in the beta period, the submissions are in process, and they've had about 1,000 quarterly submissions done. I'm not sure, again, if that inspires confidence or anxiety. So depending which way you want to look at it, but the head of the director from HMRC appears to be quite positive and bullish about that fact. And I don't think, if anyone is thinking that it may not happen, I don't think that bridge or that ship is sailed a long time ago. It is happening. I don't think there's going to be any rollbacks. So quickly, just to look at some of the polling answers that we've got. What is the MTD priority for your practice? There's a clear winner, and I think this could be maybe the anxiety that accountants are having on how to tackle this and how to tackle the communication side of it. But the majority is pricing. How can they work out what to bill their clients? I'm assuming to keep their clients, but also, make sure that it's worthwhile getting up in the morning to actually do the job servicing those clients. That's followed by what technology can be used to help them, followed by client management and whether they have enough capacity. to kind of service the changes in workflow.
Okay, that's good feedback, and I'll have that front of mind through the rest of the webinar, offering some solutions around pricing and also some feedback we've had from previous webinars about what accountants have sort of in their minds around how to price this service going forwards. So what do we know so far? This is based on the closed beta work, which has been quite a mine of information and sort of useful hints and tips so far. Early engagement with affected clients is essential. And this is all about encouraging these clients to take better care and attention of their own data and records to get them ready for the new MTD responsibilities. It's also a great opportunity for accountants to re-engineer workflows, maybe bring in automated messaging, look carefully at roles and responsibilities away from accountants and bookkeepers, maybe towards more sort of client management facing roles. And it's also a great opportunity to review the scope of services and the fees or pricing and the fees that you charge for these clients. The accuracy of digital record keeping is key. Now, this avoids delays in submitting quarterly information, and of course that mitigates the risk of any penalties being incurred, and also it helps minimise the number of errors that need to be corrected going forwards. So getting that data right first time is absolutely essential to make it a success of the new MTD requirements. It's also been noted that peaks of work are exacerbated. We know there's always a crunch around the completion of quarterly VAT returns. A lot of limited companies have the same year end of 31st of March or 31st of December. So having these 4 returns throughout the year is really going to exacerbate those peaks of work. So practices are going to have to come up with some solutions to address that. The accountants involved in the closed beta work felt they had to find additional bookkeeping resources and accountant resources to make the transition successful. But alongside that, clients, of course, are extremely cost sensitive. They're extremely resistant to any increase in fees, and paying for software for the first time could be a bit of a challenge in selling that to clients because they can't see any upside from that for them. And of course, there are benefits and opportunities from more accurate and timely information being available. So it's not just a compliance focus from MTD. There is a growth opportunity here to have more clients in the regime. You can attract new clients who are maybe entering the regime for the first time as thresholds change. And there's also a great opportunity for additional tax and advisory services to be sold on using real-time information that you have at your fingertips about your clients. So we have had a number of webinars with Initor customers, and at a recent webinar we asked them a question about record keeping. So we said to them, what are you going to do about digital records and who would actually maintain these digital records under the new MTD requirements? 21% felt that clients should maintain records themselves using any old bookkeeping software or spreadsheets, and accountants would file the quarterly returns using commercial software based on that information. So very much a self-serve solution was being proposed from some of those accountants. 60% felt that we're planning to provide full bookkeeping and quarterly filing services using commercial software where it was available. So that's quite a powerful message that accountants are recognising that this is a major change and that they're going to have to adapt their services and their pricing and their fee regimes to support it. And alongside that, around 1 in 5 are thinking about outsourcing bookkeeping and or quarterly filing work to help them with the capacity pressures and peaks of work which they were anticipating are going to emerge throughout the first years of this new regime. And of course, accountants will need to decide how these additional services will be delivered and how to support those clients who decide to self-serve. Certainly, in part of my career over the years, where we've allowed clients to self-serve, it often ends in tears, and you spend a lot of time sorting out errors and going back over historic information to get it right. So a lot to think about in terms of where you place those record-keeping responsibilities. Now, pricing, that came through loud and clear from our opening poll. And at a recent webinar, we also asked accountants at that time about setting fees for clients who would require additional MTD services and software. And interestingly, at that time, 1 in 5 of the audience were not planning any fee increase at all. They were going to absorb those additional costs, or maybe they were just going to scale down that part of their practice altogether. Around half were planning to increase fees by up to 50%. And that seemed to be a sort of reasonable expectation, especially in the first year of MTD. 1 in 4 were planning to increase fees by up to 100%, which felt like a more realistic solution based on some of the discussions we had outside of the webinar. And a very small number were planning to increase fees by over 100%. So a doubling of fees they were going to have to take to their clients and try and sell that to them in a constructive way, that there were upsides to this regime for them. So that together, 80% of accountants were looking to increase fees. So early engagement with those effective clients is going to be absolutely essential, along with a new fee structure, and 20% were not looking to increase fees at all. So many accountants felt that outsourcing would be a reasonable way to help mitigate the impact of those fee increases.
Robert, sorry,
yeah, go on, yeah.
No problem. Just to jump in here, a lot of kind of word on the grapevine that I've been hearing from accountants is that they're, the ballpark figure of £50 per quarterly filing on top of the existing fees. That just seems to be a figure that's been kind of thrown around quite a lot, I've found. And so I suppose depending on how much you're charging for the self-assessment return, that could be, a 51 to 100% price increase.
Yeah, I think that's right. In my opening remarks, I said that, these affected businesses are probably the area of an accountant's practice that hasn't really needed much care and attention over the years. Accountants have got used to the sort of annual surge in demand for self-assessment tax return work, and have just managed it by working long hours and weekends and charging appropriately. That mindset is now going to have to change. It's all about regular communication. It's all about regular touch points, and it's all about more accurate record keeping throughout the year. And that, of course, has an impact on fees, and that's what accountants are going to have to manage. Now, it would be really helpful if I could revisit those statistics. Just looking at our next poll. So just to update on fees, having heard what new responsibilities look like, what new services might look like, asking the audience, where do you expect your increase in fees to land? Would it be no fee increase at all, up to 50%, 51 to 100, or a doubling 100% plus increase? So if you just want to have a go at answering that question, that would be really helpful.
Brilliant, Robert. And I think the pricing, as the initial poll has shown, is a real anxiety for accountants. Any tips on, how you would approach that conversation yourself, Robert, if you were dealing with a person who was used to just getting a one-off bill for £300-400 for a self-assessment return, and then you now need to move them maybe onto a monthly direct debit, or you're saying actually your fees are doubling, and you may have to pay for bookkeeping software as well. Any tips how you?
Yeah, I think that initial conversation, has to start with early engagement. You talk to your clients like, this is looming in April 2026. We need to get your sole trade business or your landlord business ready for this new regime. We want you to be compliant. We want you to avoid fines and penalties. And we want you to take care of your data and take care of your records. And we're here to help you with that. So you could have some learning tools, for instance, if they want to use the software that they choose themselves. Maybe some blogs or how-to sort of webinars and things like that, or pre-recorded information, just to help clients make that transition. And then you shift the focus away from the compliance aspects and say, look, there's a real opportunity here for us to add value through the services we provide to you. And that sort of eases the client into the mindset that actually I'm going to have to start paying the market rate for this sort of support from my professional accountant. We pay professionals all the time. Accountants shouldn't be any different.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, I think if that client doesn't like the price, then he can go elsewhere. And it's not something that he can maybe get away with and maybe get one more year of a one-off cost. They are going to be met with proposals from other accountants, probably reflecting a similar pricing structure that you're considering. So in a way, MTD is also a great leveler. What you're proposing won't be any different from what an accountant is proposing. So draw strength and confidence from that, and stick to your guns as well.
Yeah, that's right.
So and just kind of, sorry, Robert, I was just going to discuss the poll, but please. So I'm just going to close the poll now. And I think it's pretty consistent, Robert, with the findings from the previous webinar that was held on this point. Is that, the basis really is that it's going to be up to a 50% price increase for that they're going to show to the clients. Up to 50%. There's a third that's going to go over 50%, and around 15% are going to do 100% price increase. So I think I would just say to those who are not considering a fee increase, there's a few of you. The other 95% of accountants on this webinar are increasing their fees. So I believe you should as well. Don't get underpaid for doing this because you're starting off a relationship on a bad footing, and it'll probably be a lot harder to revisit that pricing. Full stop, really.
Okay, that's really good. So what we'll do, I'll update those stats and I'll circulate it after the end of the webinar. So what are some of the actions and priorities for accountants going forwards? So if we set the context for this around the challenges for accountants, and this draws on sort of the previous 30 minutes of this webinar, some of the challenges for accountants are finding that capacity to contact clients and maintain that communication throughout the year. We know that workload is going to increase, especially at month end and at quarter end, and that will be sort of exacerbated by other sort of peaks of work as well around VAT and, of course, preparing accounts for your limited companies. We know the cost of new software and training of accountants in that new software is going to be a cost for individual accountants, as will they need to set up agent services accounts if you're taking on a lot of new clients who now require the services of an accountant for the first time. Turnaround times are going to be a challenge, especially at month end. If you have to run through the information provided by individual clients, they may not always have their data in an order that you can put into a digital format, or they may be a bit reticent to use digital record keeping themselves. And client engagement in this new process is always going to be a challenge, because clients have really not been that bothered about how this work was delivered in the past. And there will be unexpected pinch points, especially if clients self-serve and they're struggling with software, or if they're struggling to maintain digital records in a format that they're comfortable with as well. So what sort of action can accountants take to mitigate some of these challenges? Well, one of the lessons from the closed beta work, and it's been a consistent message, is that it's really important to segment your client database, and it's time to disengage loss-making clients. It's important to look at how your clients maintain records now. Which clients need the most help with the transition to MTD? Are they tech savvy? Are they comfortable using software or even spreadsheets? And which clients are hardest to reach? Who's not responding to your requests for information or the information you send to them? Who's ignoring you, basically, hoping that this regime will go away? It's also important to understand how clients maintain records now and identify those hitting new thresholds going forwards. Are they wedded to traditional record keeping? Traditional means paper-based, but that's no longer acceptable. And are you looking to attract new clients into this part of your business, retain your existing clients, and grow the services that you provide to those existing clients as well? So that's a real chance to look at the way you deliver services and look at how you upsell services as well. Of course, you need to get ready with appropriate software. for both bookkeeping and for the quarterly filing. We know that most software is app-led, it's mobile-first technology, so many clients will be familiar about how to maintain digital records. I mean, if they can do things like upload social media photos, then of course they can upload an invoice into accounting software. So it might be as simple as having a conversation like that. You'll also have to provide guidance to clients on the commercial software of their choice. And of course, you may want to lead them to a software that your practice is very familiar with and is comfortable with implementing going forwards. And of course, automate this process as far as possible using AI and using automation through bank feeds as well, if you're not already doing that. Some further action for accountants, really embed these new workflows as soon as possible, these recurring processes throughout 2025. And learn any lessons from the 2025 tax season around data collection and communication with clients. You should be sort of, putting clients into different pots. Yeah, green pot, these clients are completely comfortable. Amber pot, these clients need a little bit of help. And red pot, we need to give these guys a lot of help and support. And those are the ones that you should be focusing on going forwards. And of course, look carefully at the resources that you have in place and how your services are delivered. And review your engagement terms and pricing arrangements. By engagement terms, be absolutely clear. If your client needs to self-serve, then that should be in the engagement terms to make sure that expectations are completely clear between both parties. We know that things can fall down where these things are not specified contractually. And of course, look at your pricing. Subscription-based models seem to be the most popular way forward in terms of introducing this new regime. And of course, there's action for clients, and you can communicate this in any way through face-to-face meetings, through regular emails to them, or automated SMS messages as well. Just remind them that they can join the open beta at any time throughout 2025. And we know there's been a lot of take-up of that over the last few months. And as Nick mentioned, they've had about 1,000 of submissions for Q1 already. Clients need to get comfortable using bookkeeping software if they're not used to it. So they will need help and support as they work their way through that process. And of course, choosing the HMRC compatible software is important. And that's another opportunity for the accountant to lead the way in the way clients decide how they're going to file this information. And of course, there needs to be monthly record keeping to support accurate quarterly returns. Some of my opening remarks are that key to the success of this is the accuracy of digital record keeping. So again, action for clients to make sure that they're always on top of that. Learning and knowledge, I've mentioned the opportunity here to provide online blogs, how-to guides, or even webinars to help your clients with their new responsibilities. And clients need to recognise this is a compliance-based regime. No matter how much we try to add value as accountants, clients will still be lumbered with fines and penalties if they don't comply. There are, of course, some exemptions. The odd client may fall into this pot. I would imagine it's extremely unlikely to apply to most accountants at the moment. But if you are in an area that has a sort of digital exclusion, then there may be an opportunity to contact HMRC and say, well, we just can't comply with this regime, and come up with an alternative in full discussion with HMRC. So pricing. We know that accountants are planning for substantial increases, and that ranges from sort of 50% to 150%. Based on the recent poll, it seems to be settling around the 50, maybe up to 100%. Pricing should always be driven by the new digital record-keeping responsibilities, the compliance risks and of quarterly filing falling down, and the software costs. So it's a sort of bottom-up pricing for accountants. You take into account the new cost of software, the new cost of services, and of course the margin that you want to achieve from this work. It's a real opportunity to realise benefits of previous investment in cloud-based software. That means document storage arrangements, access to records, and automation. So accountants will find that they have a lot of tools at their disposal at the moment that can help their customers comply with this new regime. And in terms of pricing options, that could be based on a self-serve basis, a partial self-serve, and up to full bookkeeping and accountant services. So accountants will find themselves with a suite of options for their clients, that ranging from a minimal contact right through to full support. So you should be prepared for incremental increases in your fees depending on the level of service that your clients wish to take up. And of course, accountants need to be laying the ground now to implement this new MTD IT fee structure and updating engagement letters in the way that I outlined in the last slide. So I think it's time for our third poll now. So having listened to what Nick and I have said over the last 40 minutes or so, how ready do you feel for MTD implementation? From the not ready at all, you're preparing a plan, so you're on, or you're planning, your plan is in place and you're on track for April 2026, or you feel completely ready and it's all systems go. So it'll be useful to hear from you guys on where you feel you fit in terms of those 4 choices. I'll give my voice a rest as well.
And I think just building on some of your other points, Robert, that you made about cloud software, I think it's a really good opportunity as well for practices to move to a paperless practice, actually. Get your clients used to uploading documents via a document sharing facility, or I know majority of practice management solutions have two-way document sharing as well enabled. You also mentioned about bank feeds. Like, I keep on seeing frightening statistics, considering the great use of the technology where you can bring in all the transactions from your clients over a 100-day period. I think only 25 to 30% of accountants actually adopt them within their practice. And that's a really good place to start with, really, to help you tackle this, is get bank feeds set up. That's like probably my takeaway for the day, is get your clients using bank feeds, get your business using bank feeds. I'm also waiting for that poll to kind of populate. About digital record keeping, I just want to just quickly say a couple of comments on that. Yes, you can use a bookkeeping software with all the benefits that has: automation, receipt scanning, invoice scanning, bank feeds, etc. But you can also mitigate the costs by using a spreadsheet. Okay, as long as you're tracking the expenses and the income on a spreadsheet, that constitutes a digital record, and that just needs to be uploaded via a bridging solution as well. Okay, so that is a tool you can use to maybe keep some of those cost pressures down. Now, just looking at the poll responses, how ready are you for MTD implementation? The majority of people seem to be preparing a plan, so seem to be being proactive about it, Robert, and taking it quite seriously. Followed by not ready at all. So that may be because they might not have a client who are in the first wave of mandation. That's what I'm assuming, or giving them a bit of credit. And some say that their plan on track for the 6th of April. So the initial kind of digital record keeping element. But no one has said that they're completely ready. So I don't know whether fellow accountants want to draw strength from that, or whether it should be setting off panic alarms. So
probably a little bit of comfort being in the pack around preparing a plan, because that's suitably vague that we all feel comfortable with it. So that's not too bad. But I wanted to pick up on your remark about bank feeds. Certainly when I was in practice, our sole trader clients, they very rarely had a business bank account. So we spent a lot of time going through personal bank statements and just striking out, the sort of personal expenses and making sure that they only had their business expenses in their accounts for the year end. I know there's a lot of AI being introduced now that might be sort of learning as those sort of monthly processes go along. So it's just to be aware that your clients might not be comfortable at all paying extra for a business bank account on top of everything else they've got to pay under this regime. So there certainly seems to be an AI-based solution out there And I'm sure Capium's working hard to bring that to market, Nick.
Yeah, what I would say is it's just another way that if you are thinking about engaging your clients, I think people like options. And if you're saying what could keep your costs lower, yes, you may have to pay for a business bank account, but then your ongoing monthly fees with me as an accountant would be less because I don't have to go through all of your Sainsbury's shopping or whatnot, you know. And maybe for record keeping purposes as well, it could just be cleaner to have that kind of separate line. But yeah, you know, we've got a Capium 365 product, and that has, you know, the facilities for you to do automated bank rules. So if you did have your Sainsbury's shop, you can kind of set up a rule to disregard that, and then other recurring payments or expenses you can automatically categorize and assign those accounts codes to it. But yeah, you know, at times, Robert, I feel relieved that I'm not an accountant.
Great. So into the final part of our webinar now, and this is where I take you through some of the advantages of outsourcing MTD for IT work. Now, there are various outsourced models that I think you can pursue with this. If you take the most basic task, and that's a monthly data collection and bookkeeping, that can be held on any software or even a spreadsheet, as Nick said. So that can easily be outsourced under traditional outsourcing arrangements to a bookkeeper. That will help you as an accountant manage your workflows effectively. You've got assurance over compliance and the quality of the work. And then we move through to the updating the HMRC compatible software. So this is getting clients ready to submit that quarterly return. And again, an outsourced bookkeeper can do that work. And that helps the accountant with the timely and accurate record keeping, and also gives you early warning of issues from the outsourced bookkeeper about clients who may not be too sharp around the quality of record keeping that they've managed to achieve. And of course, when you come to file summary information each quarter, you can use an outsourced accountant to do that. They will ensure that deadlines are met and that data quality is assured. So they will carry out the tasks just as an onshore accountant would, over assurances over the data quality, the only expenses that should be included are included, and the completeness of income. They can also highlight errors in previous returns and correct them in returns going forwards. Now, the outsourced accountant can also prepare final returns, maybe a set of sole trader accounts or a set of landlord accounts as well, and then prepare that final return for submission to HMRC. And that will really help you manage that peak of work. And of course, compliance and quality is assured as well. In terms of filing the final return, I would see that firmly as a responsibility for the onshore accountant, because that is a real chance to add value to the relationship when you take the client through that final return and say, this is a real moment of truth for you. And here are some of the things that we've picked up by reviewing your income and expenses over the last 12 months. So it's an opportunity to offer tax advice and support based on the offshore accountant's work. So you can see how these different tasks will find their ways into different models of outsourcing. So what we've come up with is a fixed pricing model based on those different tasks or scope of service. So we've got at the lower end of the scale a light service, and that is just basically a traditional bookkeeping service that we carry out on any software. And that starts from £10 per client per monthly return. And that's up to 25 bookkeeping transactions. It increases incrementally as you would expect based on activity. And then you move through to the premium service, and that's where the HMRC responsibilities come into play. So as I said in my earlier slide, the offshore accountant can update HMRC compatible software each quarter, and then they can file that information using the compatible software. And we do that in the usual way as we would file any VAT return or set of accounts as well. And that starts from £15 per month per client, again, based on 25 bookkeeping transactions. And of course, some accountants want to outsource all of this work. They have in mind growth plans, attracting new clients for this, and they want to make sure that they've got the capacity to deliver those added value services and add value to the client relationship. So they really want to make sure that all of this sort of compliance-based work is outsourced. And really, the outsourced accountant will do everything right through to preparing the final self-assessment tax return on behalf of the client. And that will include all sources of income as well, not just the MTD qualifying income. A simple return will have things like income from dividends and PAYE. So very straightforward returns, and that would start at £20 per month per client. So you can see the different rates and the different scopes of service that you would achieve as you go through the light, the premium and the full services. And if any of you want to contact one of our advisors to talk about this in a bit more detail, we'll provide details at the end of this webinar. And we'll also provide the rate card. We'll circulate that to those of you who have registered. And of course, it's not just MTD IT work you can outsource. Other personal tax work that we've been doing for clients for a number of years now is admin tasks around HMRC registration and obtaining UTR numbers for clients at the time. Anyone who's tried to contact HMRC through their hotlines will find that they are pretty cold, and it takes a bit of time to progress anything with HMRC. So we can have guys ready to do that work for you. And of course, data collection, even if it's through a Dropbox arrangement or a PDFs of bank statements and invoices, the outsourced bookkeeper can collect all that information for you on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis. Accountants can also carry out tax computations throughout the year based on the information submitted to HMRC each quarter going forwards, and also at the end of the tax year through the SATR return. We also provide SA 800 services and SA 100 preparation. And increasingly, some accountants are offering historic expense claims work. And that's basically prior period returns, often for people who were in employment but haven't been submitting expense claims. So we've been doing a lot of work with individuals who are seeing a niche in the market for that kind of work. We can also help with managing HMRC queries, and we can also do HMRC filing as well. So please don't think this is just an MTD for income tax offering. There is other personal tax work that you can outsource as well. And of course, looking at the wider benefits of outsourcing work, if you already outsource bookkeeping, final accounts preparation, even company secretarial services, accountants will know that that really does help fill resource gaps and manage peaks of work and clear backlogs of work as well. You have a ready-made access to a pool of talented professionals. All of our accountants are either qualified, have been post-qualified for a number of years, or are trainees and working towards a qualification, usually ACCA. And of course, you get expertise when you need it. You can take our services on a pay-as-you-go basis, so you just bring in the expertise at key times in the tax year if you need it. You don't have to tie yourself to a full-time contract. And there's also admin support available to contact HMRC and clients if you need that sort of service. And of course, outsourcing, you have an immediate benefit from reduced costs, typically 50% less than an onshore resource. And that supports your effective pricing arrangements, especially if you're going towards a subscription fixed price model. Having a fixed price outsource resource, that can support that pricing regime as well. It also helps you make the most of investment in technology. So if you are invested in cloud accounting software, automation, that sort of thing, you can sort of realise the full benefits of that by allowing your outsourced accountant to access your servers and maintain records in real time. And of course, we have our internal quality and compliance arrangement, so we're always assured around that. And certainly Initor Global, we are GDPR and ISO 27001 accredited. So we make sure that your data security is always assured. So final question for you before I give you some closing remarks. Would you like to be contacted by one of our expert advisors to talk about MTD for IT or any wider outsourcing needs? Yes, please choose number one. Sometime in the near future. Number two, no thanks, not at this time. Number three, and that will make sure we can prioritise our calls going forwards.
Brilliant, Robert. Thank you. And what I think I would just like to reiterate is I think if you are a one-man band, or there's a couple of you in your business and you're really thinking of how can you service these requirements, and you don't particularly want to hire a new UK staff member, especially with the national insurance increases that have taken place, I really do think outsourcing is a viable solution that can be explored. And I don't know if you may have mentioned already, but I know Initor has some really good trials that people can kind of dip their toes in and get a feel for what it would be like having a relationship with you. But no, Robert, I think that was great. I think that was really insightful, and I think there's some really good practical first steps that people can start considering when it comes to MTD IT and using outsourcing for a solution. I just quickly want to do a shout out just to see if there's any questions for Robert and I. Again, the webinar is being recorded and the slides will be shared afterwards as well.
Okay.
But in the absence of no questions, Robert, I'll leave the final words with you.
Okay, so just some concluding remarks, bringing my previous remarks all together. The mindset for accountants now needs to be on implementation and delivery. It's not about the conceptual aspects of MTD. It's not about how might we transition. It's about now we need to deliver. So that needs to be the mindset going forwards. It's also important to understand the way your clients behave, how they keep records, and educate those clients where they need it. Review your engagement terms and your fee structures. That's often overdue. This is a real good opportunity to make any changes that you need to engagement and fee structures. Client contact and management, automate your messaging as far as possible, and that minimizes the stress on some of your sort of internal client-facing roles. Complete that capacity review to deliver. Think about outsourcing as a solution to help you deliver on that. And embed good practice now throughout 2025 tax season and even through to 2026 as well, when you're working with clients to prepare those self-assessment tax returns. It also provides opportunities for upselling services based on accurate and timely information. So when you're trying to have that conversation with a client about the need for tax, expertise or other advisory services, you've got real-time information to support those discussions. And as I've said throughout, outsourcing provides a ready-made solution and it's cost-effective as well. Thank you for listening. If you want to contact us, there's my email address or the generic email address for Initor. Visit our website. You'll find details of our free trial and some of the offers we have for new clients at the moment. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd be delighted to hear from you and I will connect with you and follow you right back. That's the final words from me, Nick. Over to you if you want to close the webinar.
No, yeah, please feel free to reach out to Robert and I on LinkedIn if you want to shoot the MTD topic, shall we say. But look, just really want to thank you, Robert, for this webinar. I want to thank everyone for attending. I know there's more webinars coming up in Capium's summer series, so please keep your eyes peeled for that. And if you're interested in Capium, which is a cloud-based accounting solution, please go to capium.com and give us a check out. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. Enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Nick. Bye everyone.